Have you ever used the term hell on wheels? I'll bet you have. Perhaps it was associated with someone of unsavory character, someone who was violent, someone who just plain acted like they did not care. But what is the real origin of that term? You're going to learn exactly where that term comes from in this episode of History of Everyday Sayings. Your host here, Stephen Carter, and I welcome you to this episode of History of Everyday Sayings. This show is for you if you're a logophile, meaning, of course, a lover of words, if you're a writer, a speaker, a philomath, or someone who simply loves history tidbits you can use to impress friends and family. Speaking of tidbits, each episode is short, they're bite-sized, for easy listening and recall. By listening, you'll discover how phrases and words we use every day came to be. So let us dive in to our phrase of the day. Hell on wheels. Hell on wheels. Where did that term come from? Before researching this, I assumed it had something to do with rum runners, moonshiners, or something along those lines, but no. According to the QBP Encyclopedia of Word and Phrase Origins, that term goes back to the 1860s. Back in the 1860s, way back when the Union Pacific Railroad was being constructed, there were gangs of men who lived in boxcars, and these boxcars were pulled along by, trains as the line progressed. The men living in those boxcars were laborers going about the business of laying tracks and other construction activities as the Union Pacific Railroad was being built. These men were hard-living, hard-drinking, often violent individuals, and they cavorted with gamblers, prostitutes, and other unsavory individuals. This wild amalgam of human beings assembled in the boxcars, people who had settled in these towns along the railroad, they looked askance at such shenanigans. Those boxcars were like hell in the eyes, hearts, and minds of settlers, and before long that moving train of hard-drinking, hard-fighting, colorful individuals became known as hell on wheels. Pretty soon that term became synonymous with any violent or vicious person or lawless place, even when that place could be transported along the rails. If you're curious about exploring more about this phrase, I'll have resources linked up in the show notes. For more amazing history of everyday sayings, tasty auditory tidbits you can use to amaze friends and family, subscribe or follow, and of course it's free to do that. Subscribe or follow where you get your podcasts. If you would like to comment on this or any other episode, email me at cartermethod@gmail.com, cartermethod@gmail.com. Until our next visit, your host here, Stephen Carter, wishing you and your loved ones blessings in abundance.